All right, now the next thing we need to describe is how the cheekbone, this guy right here, how this is going to connect with the barrel of the teeth, barrel of the mouth, let's call it that way. How are these guys going to pull together? So the best way to think about this is very similar to the glabella. So you know how the glabella is pulling in. It's got this kind of capital pattern to reference old school architecture. That's what the zygomatic, or really the frontal, well, let's call it this, the zygomatic process of the maxilla. That's what they would say. So this is going to pull straight down and become a bit of a column or an arch connecting in. There's a couple of things that we need to know about this, though, that I want to be really clear with. We've got some safe zones, some areas that are not going to get affected. Frontal process of the maxilla, the infraorbital margin, the zygomatic bone itself. These are all stable, they don't get touched. Same here with the jaw. That's not touched at all with the barrel of the mouth or the ramus off to the side. All we're trying to do right now is establish that particular arch into the barrel of the mouth, into the teeth. And that's going to have a couple of key components. One, we have to remember that this is going to tilt backwards in space. So it's actually going to tilt in this direction. And then tilt down. So we're going to do this really simply with the trim dynamic brush. But I really want to make sure that we're getting a very clean break in form as this comes down and in. Trim dynamic is selected. We're going to keep the teeth and the eye, all of those areas are going to stay safe, but I am going to use trim dynamic to get close to them. Lower my draw size. Okay. And it's really as easy as that. Nothing too special about it. A couple of things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you know where the canine teeth are. Remember, we already studied the fact that the canine teeth are really responsible for the plane change, or they're right at the plane change, I should say, from the front of the mouth to the side of the mouth. And then just keep in mind how the frontal process of the maxilla operates and get this downward plane. You can kind of see similar tangents in effect here. Keep it simple. Don't go too extreme and try to get all the nuances. It'd be much better to just have a very simple column. So I'm going to just add a little bit. And then later on you can sculpt more of the specificity of it, the specific nature. There is one thing I do want to call some attention to, though. It's really important, and it's something that we miss a lot. It took me a while in my sculpting to actually see this. But I want to create a divot right here in this triangle to the outside of the nasal bone. When you sculpt somebody's face, you've got your nose, nostrils coming out to the side. We already know the line of the lips. You've got the nasal labial fold coming out to the side. And then one thing you'll notice in your sculpts is that there is this triangle below the nasal labial fold and above the mouth, above where the teeth, the lips are. This triangle right here is actually in the bone. The form that you see on the surface, the recessed hollow form that you see on the surface of a model, where from a 3/4 view, the form seems to kind of dip inwards, is coming from a change in plane in the sculpt itself, or in the skull itself. So I'm going to put that in right now, and I'm going to start with a clay brush and just dig in. And I'm just digging that triangular shape in, leaving the rest of it. Okay, so that might look a little confusing, but in essence, that is still simply the triangular shape that I'm trying to indicate to you. And now come back in with Trim Dynamic, and I just want to make a very clean top plane or upward facing plane, a very clean downward facing plane. And soften the transition. I'm pressing Alt and just stroking along the distance of it. Okay. So there we've been able to indicate that to some extent. And you're already starting to feel like that skull has some really nice weight to it. I'm starting to feel that. Don't mean to put words in your mouth. But I like the weight that this has now. I want to do just one more minor form thing. I want to pull the corner of the nose down a little. And out a little.